Hey loves, welcome to a new video here on the L&M channel. Today we're going to be talking about something that I don't talk about very often in this space, and that's my planning and functional system. I don't normally talk about it because I tend to I feel like there's definitely two different types of niches even within the journaling sphere, and it's the functional and planning niche, and then the more mm, sort of journaling and creative adjacent realm, right? So we have like the more functional and then the more creative. And I feel like there's definitely a place for an intersection because a lot of us do enjoy both sides of those things. But it just so happens that I prefer creating content related on the more journaling and creative expression side of things than the functional and planning side of things. That being said, I have needed to sort of pay a little bit more attention to my functional and planning systems because I have a lot of different things that I need to be paying attention to on a day to day basis. And so proper planning is crucial. And so before I talk about the system that I'm using right now, which is the reason that I want to share this video with you, which you probably already realized because I would have put it on the thumbnail and I would have probably put it on the title. It's right over here as a spoiler alert. I kind of wanted to show you what it is that I was using at the beginning of the year and the different things that I've sort of trialed out that just didn't work for me 100%. I started off the year in a take a note, and of course, if you know me, you'll know that the take a note does not come in a rings binder, but I did go ahead and deconstruct it and turn it into a ring system. And I have since then removed the pages that I used for planning. But I did start off the take a note planning, and I think I may have the trial pages that I used. Let's see. Oh, I may have actually thrown them away. Yeah, it looks like I did. So I had like trial pages in the back that I was using to kind of practice, and yeah, I threw them out. But I quickly realized that I didn't quite like this system for planning. I had also attempted planning kind of like dually a in the take a note and then also pre-planning in my iPad on GoodNotes. And that lasted for a little while and didn't quite work. I also tried kind of like planning in a personal size rings where I bought this sort of like week on two spread and then had notes pages here in the back for the notes that I needed to take. A little bit of context is that I am a homeowner, so there's things that I need to do around the house, maintenance and all that jazz. Aside from the fact that I also live in my own apartment. So the house is 3 units. I have one of the apartments. So there's maintenance to do in the apartment itself and for the house. Then I have two full-time jobs. I have client work that I need to do as a virtual assistant. I have YouTube. I have Patreon. So there's a lot of different things. And I have two cats, which also has their own set of tasks. And so again, the need to kind of like be able to plan my days and figure things out was really, really important to me. Last year, I used a Hobonichi Cousin for planning, just as some extra context, and that worked a little bit, but I had my ups and downs with it, and ultimately this year I decided that I didn't want to do that. This system here in the rings worked for a little bit, but I found myself not really liking the amount of space that I had in the monthlies. It was too small, and I found myself a little bit too it felt a little bit too floaty for me. I didn't feel very grounded in the system, and so this didn't end up working very well. I also had in 2023 temporarily used, or not temporarily, but for a good amount of time, used the horizontal layout for the Traveler's Notebook, along with an insert for notes and a monthly insert for planning. But again, that also felt a little that wasn't really what I wanted to do. I had my moments where it worked well and moments where it didn't. There was a point after I tried using the rings where I was like, you know what, I actually might just get a horizontal weekly again. And then I remembered I had a 2024 mega that I had originally got for planning in the beginning of 2024 and didn't end up using, and decided to try it out and use that for a couple of weeks as well. And that went okay. I was actually using the notes pages much better than I had used them back in 2024. So this was a strong contender for a planning system for 2026. But at that point, as I was kind of doing through all these things, I think I also used an A5 at some point for planning. Basically, I have jumped into a lot of different systems, reusing things that I already had, but definitely jumping and trying to figure out what the best option was so that I didn't feel floaty. And what I've been using is a combination of a planner or a notebook for planning kind of like high level things and a task manager digitally using a program called ToDoist. But there was still things in that kind of like combination that I didn't quite like. And so forever trying to figure out what to do with planning and not really finding anything that stuck very, very well. Cue a video that I was recommended on YouTube. I had been watching a lot of videos by Robbie over at the Sunshine Archives, and if you know anything about Robbie, they use a lot of index card systems. And I found myself really wanting to use index cards for something, but not knowing quite what to use them for, because I quite like the digital system that I have for my commonplacing and collection of quotes. So I didn't feel necessarily in alignment with using that for index cards. But I guess that because I was watching a lot of index card related content, I ended up getting a recommendation for a video that sparked my interest. The video was called My Index Card System for a Peaceful, Organized Home, inspired by the Sidetracked Home Executives by Natasha's Healthy Living. I ended up spiraling and watching a whole bunch of videos on this index card system, this functional system using index cards that was very popular apparently within the stay at home mom and stay at home wife niche, but I had never seen before outside of that. And the more I saw about it, the more interested in it I was, because one of the things that I've been struggling with is, like I mentioned earlier, home maintenance and taking care of my apartment. I, for most of my adult life, lived with my grandparents and um, most recently, my mom moved back in with us as well. And in this house, like I mentioned earlier, there's 3 apartments, and but I'm the homeowner, and so it's my responsibility to sort of keep tabs on all of the things that need to be maintained on different schedules. And I also want to do better at taking care of my own apartment now that I live by myself. All of those responsibilities lie on me, and I couldn't find a way having um, a level of autism and possibly ADHD, having chronic depression that I struggle with, and the ups and downs of that, it can become a little difficult sometimes and definitely a little tedious to try and remember all of those things without a clear system. And it wasn't one that I was really paying much attention to because I didn't know where to start. It's like this whole thing, right? Like you don't know what you don't know. And I'm going to be very honest and very vulnerable here. I didn't really know what to do in this regard. And being as stubborn as I am, I didn't really want to ask for outside help. I wanted to kind of learn what to do myself. So I ordered the book. I waited for it to arrive. And as I waited to arrive, I started placing orders for things. If you know me, I am someone who can't just do something simply. I have to go all or nothing. And so, what I would recommend to you if you're looking at this video and thinking, I want to try this, is go simple first. Don't go as crazy as I did. Buy something because you don't know if the system's going to work for you, right? And ultimately, a lot of these things I could have returned them if they didn't work. But yeah, my recommendation to you, right before we even get started here, is if you're gonna go out and do this system, then try to keep it, try to start slow and do little tests and see if it will work for you. Don't do what I did. So I watched videos, I purchased a box that I could use for my index cards and added stickers to it because you know me, I need to customize everything. And so this is a little wooden box that I purchased. Please don't I mean, here's the thing, right? And at the end of the day, you do whatever you want to do because I know that I like to see pretty things when I am working in my systems. And so I wanted a wooden box. Also, please excuse the sound of lawn mowers. My mom is mowing the lawn right now. So I got these blank index. I'm going to show you the actual stock. So when I tell you that I go all out and get a little intense, I mean that quite literally. Let me go ahead and just make sure that there's nothing exposed here because I'm using this for more than just personal stuff. So I first purchased these. which are just blank dividers. And then I also purchased these, which are 3 colors, right? And again, I hadn't even gotten the book yet, so this was kind of all over the place. Please read the book before you purchase anything. And ultimately, at the end, I ended up purchasing these most recently. But those are the ones that I got. And I was also on the lookout for fountain pen friendly index cards, particularly because I also wanted to use this system for ink swatches. I have since given up on that notion, and there will be a video on that specifically. But that's the index cards that I purchased off of Jet Pens, were supposedly going to be fountain pen friendly. And as you can see, I can write on them with fountain pen. But what I also wanted to do was to be able to do swatches, and that wasn't very good. But anyways, I'm getting beyond the scope of this video. The point is, I purchased a lot of different things before I even got the book. But then I got the book. This is it. This is Sidetracked Home Executives, from Pink Pen to Paradise. And I did read it all. I read it in 2 sittings, and I underlined the heck out of it and tabbed it, as you can see. And like I mentioned, this is primarily targeted to stay-at-home wives or stay-at-home partners or stay-at-home mothers. And that is the realm in which it is created for. That being said, you can, what I like to say with things like this is, take what you want, take what you need, take what resonates, and leave the rest. For example, in my case, there is a chapter in here on children and a chapter in here on holidays such as Christmas. I didn't read those because I don't have children and I don't celebrate holidays. So I didn't need that. And that's absolutely fine. And the things that worked, worked, and the things that didn't. And you only know through trial and error, but using this as a sort of framework has been honestly life-changing. So let me tell you a little bit about the index cards, because I kind of read this so you didn't have to. I've been experimenting with publishing some notes in my Obsidian Vault, and it is still pretty messy and still a work in progress. However, I'm going to be adding show notes to some videos on there and linking them in the description. So I am going to put all of my annotations and notes from this system in the show notes so you guys can read through it as well and kind of see if this is something that would resonate with you. So at its core, this system is utilizing index cards per task, and then you have dividers per day, you have dividers for your months, and then you have the additional option of having a alphabet dividers for contact information. So you will need a 3x5 box, and then the original system calls for colored cards for classifications. So you have yellow cards, blue cards, pink cards, and white cards, and that would basically denote the frequencies of your activities. So pink cards would be personal cards, yellow cards would be daily cards, blue cards would be weekly, and white cards would be monthly. The first thing that the book tells you to do is to establish an activity list, which is all of the things that you are going to be doing, all of the tasks that you want to keep in your box. And the book has a section here in the back that helps you out with some of those activities. I, like I mentioned, didn't want to just have cleaning activities or cooking activities or homemaking activities. I also wanted to include things for my different jobs, things for my clients, things for my homemaking, and also things for the L&M website and Patreon and things like that. So right off the bat, I knew that because of how I classify in my different systems, I didn't want to have cards for frequency. So I decided to just use white cards all around and to color code them using a tombow at the top to denote what type of or what theme those cards had. So, for example, this kind of green color is for my home cards. So you can see here, clean litter boxes is one of the things that I have in here. And I do that every other day, or daily is something that I've started doing recently. So I will change that to D. Essentially, the anatomy of a card would be that you have the task that you're doing in the center, the frequency that you are doing it on the side, and the time that it's gonna that you're taking or allotting to it on the right. In this case, I've also included mini because the system tells you that if you have jobs that will take under 10 minutes, those are considered mini jobs. And like I mentioned earlier, you want one card per task. So, for example, here are my tasks for today, and I have taken out any confidential cards. So these are mostly just like L&M tasks or home tasks. So these are the cards that were in front of my divider for today. So my 13th, because this is the day that I'm recording this video. As you can see here, record YouTube video. It's what I'm doing right now. I do that on a weekly basis. And what I have decided to do is to just add a little post-it every single time for different ideas on videos that I want to record. As you can see here, index card system is one of the ones. So I've denoted that that takes me to between 30 minutes to an hour per video. And I do that on a weekly basis. I also have reply comments to and on Patreon or YouTube. I found that this is a task that I can very easily put off because it can become overwhelming after a certain point. So I've made myself a card so that I ensure that I do this every single week, at least once. And again, you see here weekly, and this shouldn't take me more than 10 minutes. So it's considered a mini job. Every day, I want to spend at least 5 minutes free writing or 10 minutes gardening in my Obsidian Vault. And I want to do this again daily. So I have a D there for daily. And this is a mini job because it's either 5 minutes or 10. It originally was just the 5 minute free writing, but I found that sometimes I wasn't in the mood for that and wanted instead to just kind of go around my Obsidian and clean notes up. So I added this 10-minute gardening. That still classifies itself as a mini job though, so that's perfectly fine. And you can see here this red color that you saw in the other notes. This is for L&M tasks or sort of creative practice tasks. Then we have here order groceries, and I just have a little, again, a little post-it note with some things that I don't want to forget that I want to order. And I have that I order groceries on a weekly basis or in every other week, and that should take me no longer than 20 minutes. I did not classify this as a mini job because even though it could be a mini job if I'm only ordering from one place, if I'm ordering, if it's one of the mass month groceries, then it could take me a little longer. And you can see here it's a green note. This is something that maybe you don't need. Maybe you don't need to remind yourself to do groceries. But at the core of it, the index box system is to create habits. And once you no longer need a card to remind you to do things, then you can remove the card. No biggie. But I want to make sure that I have a mental trigger to do these things because of the ADHD or because of my own kind of hectic lifestyle, it can be very easy for me to forget simple things. And I want to make sure that I don't forget to do groceries at least once a week, for example. I've added this card recently. It's a writing effort. As I continue to emphasize and grow in my writing practice, I want to make sure that I'm writing every single day, one way or another. And this usually can be accomplished either through my morning free writing, as you can see here, or I could do my newsletter, or if I need to, I can do a YouTube script. I don't normally create scripts for my videos, but sometimes being able to write something out of what I want to say and things like that can help kind of make my thoughts contain themselves and find a through line that makes it easy for me to express myself in these videos. So that's an option that I've given myself. And so again, this is a daily or an every other day task, 30 minutes, and then the color denotes that it's an L&M task. Here we have cleaning and prepping my printables. I offer printables on Patreon. And so I offer at least 3 in the month. And I want to make sure that I make time for cleaning them because that is probably the most tedious of the things. And I've given myself an hour for that on a weekly or every other week basis. And then the last 2 are cleaning the dishes and cleaning the litter boxes. Again, this is not necessarily something that you might need. But for me, I just want to make sure that I remind myself, hey, these are things you need to be doing every day or every other day. And it makes it easier for me to just know that I don't have to remember these things. They're in my index card system. I will be reminded. I've set it up so that I remind myself organically and I know what it is that I need to do any given day. And that way it frees my brain up and not it makes it so that I don't have to hold on to these things in my mind, because I know that I will be reminded of them later. So at the core of the system, you say, okay, great, you have all these cards, Chris, but what do you do with them once you're done? Okay, so we have a frequency on them, right? So the way that the system works in terms of the dividers and the cards is that you always file to the front. So your jobs, your tasks will always be at the front of your divider. So today's the 13th as I'm recording this, which means all of my tasks for the day are in front of this card. And your 1 through 31 cards are your rotating monthlies. So let's say I'm finished with the 13th, right? I've done all my tasks, or there are tasks that I didn't do, but I'm going to move them anyways. Once you're done with the 13th, then you go over here and you look for your last day in the month that you've already moved. In this case, it would have been the 12th. And I put this behind there. And I'm ready to go for tomorrow with all of my tasks for the day. And you keep doing that until you get to the end of the month. Now, in my case, one of the things that I also do, because I've realized that I kind of needed it, is I have these little dividers that I showed you guys earlier, separating the weeks, at least the next 2 weeks. So I can tell right easy just from seeing this. I don't have to look up a calendar. That the 15th is the start of the next week, and over here you'll see this yellow one. The 22nd is the start of the following one. And the reason why I did that was because that way, if I have tasks that I'm not sure what day in the week I want to accomplish, as you can see, I have 2 here, published the Black newsletter and the weekly arc. If I want to make sure that I have a task ready for the next week, but I don't know what day I want to add that to, I'll add that to the start of the week card, because again, all the cards are being filed to the front. And once I get to that start of the week, I can decide, okay, what day am I going to do this in? So let's say right now I finish recording the YouTube videos that I want for today, and I'm ready to archive this card. I know I do this on a weekly basis, and I know today is Saturday, which means that I'm going to look at my calendar and look for the next Saturday, which in this case will be the 20th, and I will file the card in front of the 20th. So that way, once I roll through all these cards, once I'm back on the 20th, it'll be there waiting for me the next time I need it. And you just keep doing that over and over and over again. And then let's say we're done with the month, it's the 30th. In this case, I have a 31, but obviously September only has 30 days. I have reached September, let's say, right? And then at this point, all of these cards will be over here. Then I will just move this to the back over here. And then we'll have October ready to go. I have a little divider here for the month. So any task that I know I want to do in October, but I don't know what day in October I want to do them, then I'll just put them in front of this card. And once October comes in, I can decide what day or what week I want to add that to. And it just keeps recycling that way over and over again. The book recommends that you do all of your activities before you even set up the index card system, but I decided to create cards as I go. So as I start doing tasks and realizing, hey, I want to do this at a certain frequency, then I will create that card and add it. So I realized a couple days ago, and I wanted to do this on camera so you guys would see me, that I wanted to add a card for me changing my water filter for the house. So I know that's going to be a quarterly. Do I want to do quarterly? I think I'm going to do every other month or quarterly. So I'm going to check it every other month and then actually replace it on a quarterly basis. And that's something that should take me 10 minutes or less. So it is a mini card. And then I am going to put check, replace, water filter for the house, right? So I just got the card done, and I'm going to, because this is a house card, I'm going to color code that with my green. So then I just go over here and add this band. And I have a color for house, for L&M, for Wider View Studios, which is my virtual assistant business. For my 2 jobs, they each have their respective color. And I think that's it. But basically every theme, or I guess who I owe the task to, for lack of a better word, gets its own color coding. Now, where do I put this in the card system? So I have to do this month because I haven't done it yet. And I want to do it on a weekend. So I think because I'm not going to get to do it today and tomorrow we have people coming over, I think I'm going to set this up for the 20th, for next Saturday. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the 20th, and there it'll be ready for me to go the next time I see it. And once I get to the 20th and I'm done with it, right? I'm saying, okay, cool. I'm done with it. I know that I want to do it every other month, which means that this will have to get done again. If I did it in September, then October, November. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in the November card, in front of the November card, right there. And so once November comes around, I see it. I'm like, oh, perfect. I can do that. Something that you could do is add a last done note here at the bottom. And there's a framework for skipping and stuff like that that is also included in the book. So that is another option. Once I get to the card, I can decide if I want to do that or not. There's another thing that the system recommends, which is a basic weekly plan, which is basically giving themes to your days. I use this very loosely. I'm still working on it. I haven't 100% decided on that. But basically, the system calls for setting up a free day every week where you can do anything you want, free of housework, errands, cooking, etc. A moderate cleaning day, a quiet day, which I'm calling kind of like admin days. Basically, it's to do anything like pay bills, balance the checkbook. This is an older book, guys. Um, writing letters, tie up loose ends, a grocery shopping day, a heavy cleaning day, a family day, a Sunday free of cleaning, and things like that. Of course, that can be modified according to particular schedules or preferences, uh, but they do really emphasize starting with a weekly plan because without it, the system will fail. Um, I Again, I use this loosely and it definitely needs work. So I'm just letting myself sort of go through it. The point of the weekly plan is that, let's say, for example, you know that in my case, my Fridays, right? I set them up as my admin days. I know I don't touch my budget, for example, in any very intense way for more than 10 minutes. Like if I want to see my budget, that's fine. But I don't like actually work on my budget until Friday. And that liberates the tension that you may feel the rest of the days. In a similar vein, right, I do client work on Mondays, which means that I know that every other day I don't really have to worry about that. I am going to get to it on Monday. And let's say um, there's a certain day that you go grocery shopping or you run your errands, right? And someone says, hey, I need you to do this today. You'll be like, no, actually, I do errands on Wednesdays, for example. I will take care of it then. If you need it prior to that, then you can do it yourself or we can work around that. But essentially, what it gives you is peace of mind because you know what days you're doing what by theming those days, and it makes it a little bit easier. Again, the book is originally meant for homemakers, stay at home partners, stay at home wives and mothers, or anything like that. So if you're using it for other things like for work and stuff like that, you have to modify it quite heavily. But that is just something that I wanted to mention because it is a key point in the book that is talked about. And that's basically how I'm using it. I am using this as my task manager. Another thing, as you notice, there's these ABCD alphabet cards. One thing that you can do that the system calls for is to create contact cards with all the information for people. And then another thing that it calls for is creating like special white cards that houses your important dates. So, and it says to put them on the 25th. So essentially, let's say I go to the 25th, I haven't done them, but you have a card that has all the anniversaries, birthdays if you celebrate birthdays, and basically important dates that recur every single year. And that way, if you get gifts or stuff like that, you can remember to do that prior to the following month, a few days in advance. So that's another thing that the system calls for. That's pretty handy that I haven't actually done yet, but is an option. And I haven't really utilized the alphabet ones yet. I'm still debating whether I want to do that or not, but essentially the index card system is meant to be a second brain of sorts when it comes to task management, and I'm really excited to continue expanding upon it. I've been using it for most of July. I think it might have been mid-August though. I'm not 100%. I actually got the cards in the beginning of August. So I've been using this for over a month now and I have been loving it very, very much. It's helped me tremendously. and I'm very excited to continue kind of having it evolve more so. What I have noticed is that I would like to have a secondary sort of system along with it. So if I'm using this as a task manager, which basically removes Todoist, the digital system from the arrangement, I still need a place to take notes for client work or things like that. And also just a general area for me to see if I need to do temporary tasks that aren't on a recurring structure. One thing that you can do is to create temporary cards, but I don't quite like that. I would rather keep this to frequencies. And so I'm playing around with the idea of having either again in the rings, or I'm working around with that plan. And then another thing that I did add to the system, particularly for social media planning, because that's something that I've struggled with quite a lot, is this Muji calendar, which it's a blank calendar, an A5, and I'm using this for very messily deciding what videos I'm going to be recording or posting in the month, just so that I have a better idea once this record YouTube video card comes into the realm of my attention. I know what videos it is that I have planned out for the month ahead of time. So that's basically how my functional system has evolved this year, and I'm quite confident in this index system. Um, I'm liking it quite a lot, especially because it takes care of the multiple aspects of my life that I need sort of some structure in. And yeah, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I will leave a show notes link in the description where you can get some more information on what the different structures for the book demands if you're interested in the index card system. It'll also include a link to all the videos that I watched while I was waiting for the book to arrive. If you have any questions or you want me to deep dive a little bit more into this, if you want to make me to make a follow-up video on the index card system and how I've further modified it for my own purposes, then let me know and I will happily answer those questions either in the comment section or in another video. As always, thank you so much for watching. And if you're interested in how I used my journals in August instead of the functional system, more on the creative side of things, go ahead and click on this video over here, and that will take you to my August wrap up. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye!